What's up? Today we're going to be doing a Q45 diff swap on my S14. I already did it, but it broke, and to replace it, the steps are the same thing, so I'm going to walk you guys through it. And so the point of doing this diff swap is because the stock gear ratio on the stock 240SX diff, it's a 4.08, and I have a CD09, so that gearing is very short. So first gear is super useless, second is all right, third, fourth, but they're all very close to each other. So with this gets us to a 3.69, and so that'll give us our longer gears, and it's just it'll be a better ratio to be in the power band for first, second, and third gear. So this thing's super dirty. I haven't washed it because I haven't driven it because it's been broken. So I'm probably gonna wash that first. So disgusting. Look at this. I'm in gear. Foot off the clutch. We're rolling. So I got the diff out. This is the blown Q45 one. We're gonna pretend as if this was a stock 240 diff because the process is the same as I explained earlier. So I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna take the center section out of this, just like the welded 240SX center section. And then I'm gonna take this apart. I'm gonna remove the LSD section and keep the ring gear, put the ring gear on the welded 240SX section, so that I have a welded diff, but with this gear ratio, with the 369 ratio. And with that center section, I'm able to use my conversion stubs still. And so these are 240SX stubs converted to 350Z stubs. So this allows me to use my stubs and have a welded center section with this gear ratio. So that's essentially what I'm doing. This is leaking already, you can see all the glitter. That's fucked. So I'm gonna let that drain, and then I'm gonna open them up, and then I'll show you guys all the pieces laid out. Okay, got the stubs out. You just hold it and then tap it with the hammer from the inside of the flange. So if that was like that, you would try just whatever corner you can, just tap it out. They pop right out. They just have a little C-clip on the inside of here. Just pop out real easy. So now 217s, take that out, pry the center section out, and then remove the ring gear, and then that's all we'll need from this diff. This doesn't take it off. Nothing's taking it off. So this center section is all we need out of your 240SX diff. So like I said, I already did the Q45 swap. I used this center section in the Q45 diff. Same process. So if you had to have a 240SX diff, this is what you need out of it, just the center section. Okay, now onto the Q45 diff. I pushed out the old bearing or the old bushing that was in here, and now there's a little sleeve, so now I'm tapping it out with a hammer and just a 22mm socket. Just have it in there, tapping it out. It's not that hard to push out. Then once that's out, I'll open it up, and from this diff, all I need is the ring gear. So I'm getting rid of the stubs, getting rid of the center section, keeping the ring gear and the shims as well. So here's the two center sections. This is the Q45 LSD center section. I'm gonna remove the ring gear, use that hardware as well, and we're gonna put it on the welded 240SX center section. So to use the hardware, these bolts, you have to drill these holes out. Same pattern, just slightly bigger. That way I have a welded diff with a 3.69 gear ratio, which, to reiterate, it'll help me with the CD09 that I have in my car, because this gearing, the 240SX gearing, is a 4.08, super short. All the gears are super short, gives me a better gear ratio, closer to a 350Z diff without having to use a 350Z diff, because the actual diff itself sits lower, and so the drive, you know, the angle of both axles is pretty gnarly, and you can put more stress on the axles and potentially break them. So just for comparison, I have these on the table. The table's flat. You can see they are exactly the same thing. So if you're putting the exact same thing back in, you should be able to get away with just putting the ring gear on, putting the shims in the same order, and it should be fine. You shouldn't have to mess with anything. You still want to measure everything, make sure the backlash is correct, and make sure your pattern is correct before slamming it all together and throwing it in your car, because then all this work is for nothing and you have another blown diff. So, you know, I'm just saying you should be able to get away with it. As you can see, both surfaces are exactly the same. And when you're putting the ring gear on, you also want to clean this surface where it bolts on, because if it is off, you know, it could have a little wobble to it. So just clean that off, clean this side off, Loctite, slam it together. Then you want to torque it 135 to 145 foot-pounds. I'm doing 140. Can't see it, but it's 140. And then also I have a marker, so I can go around and mark each one that I do after it's done, because there's a lot. You want to do a star pattern as well, so you don't want to lose track. So mark them. So now we're going to put this into the diff. These bearing caps get torqued to 65 to 72 foot-pounds. Put it in, put the shims in the exact same order, torque it, spin it, make sure we're good, slam the stubs in, and back in the car. Forgot to show the part where I did the pattern, but you basically lay, I did grease. I was able to get away with the grease. You can do a little paint marker. These paint markers did work a little bit, but they dried up too quick. But just any type of paste that would leave a mark, you put it on the gears, spin it, look at the wear pattern, and if it's good, you're good to go. So I torqued the end caps. I looked at the wear pattern, it was good. RTV'd the back, put that on, so now we're good to go, and throw this back in the car. I was able to get away with the shims that were in it. So I put them in the exact same order and it was fine. So there we go. Back in. Another thing I forgot to mention is that this hole is the same, but these bolt holes for the drive shaft are not the same. So you're gonna have to mark it and drill it outside of the car. I did it in the car the first time and it sucked. So you can see here, two different patterns, drill them out. So yeah, get your drive shaft, put it up against there, mark it, drill it, then put it in. Here we go, got the drive shaft on there. All 4 bolts drilled up, ready to go. Now we can throw it in the car.